Thanks for joining us once again. Our focus today is the Tesla Semi and the fact that bad press, delays, it doesn't seem like a lot of those delayed customers are abandoning ship despite those delays. So we wanted to sort of take a different angle look at the Semi today. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We also want to thank our Patreon supporters. If you enjoy the show, would like some ideas on investing and trading, as well as sort of insider info not on the regular channel, please join us on Patreon. So today we're concentrating a little bit on the Semi. As I was reviewing some sort of new items that I'll include in this show, I was really surprised at the volume of hate that Tesla gets, but there isn't a similar effort to honor many of the brilliant moves made by the company. So one of the things, an example of this that I thought was interesting was, you'll recall 2.5 years ago, the Wall Street Journal did an article. You guys that are not in the United States, particularly not in the Bay Area, kind of don't get to see sort of Tesla in motion. So I think I have to start posting photos on our Facebook account so you can see the factory, see the evolutionary change of the company, etc. For example, the Wall Street Journal did an article and it described the fact that Tesla has one of the worst parking situations of any company in the world, especially something with the market cap that Tesla has. So my first encounter with Tesla was, I went to visit their headquarters, and their headquarters building was basically a 2-story, maybe, actually, I guess it's 3-story building, but each floor had maybe 1,000 square feet, and they had like 3 times the number of people. So when you got there, you're all of a sudden looking around, parking is chaotic, everything isn't smooth. And so my initial reaction was, oh man, I thought they might go out of business, but when you look at that parking lot, you're thinking, this doesn't look good. So what I wanted to review is the fact that there's this, Silicon Valley operates like way different than other places. Let me give you an example. They have a theory in Silicon Valley that says that most companies go through an evolution. Initially, they start out with engineering teams that are kind of spread all over town, all over the valley, working on different things. Then what happens is that they get enough money, they go public, and then they all of a sudden build a beautiful operating facility. Well, it turns out that there's this weird phenomenon where as soon as that beautiful operating facility is opened up, you're bringing all the employees under one roof, free meals, all kinds of great perks. That's right when the stock prices often take a dip. And the company, the buildings are leased, so in theory it shouldn't be a big deal. But nonetheless, it's like this tried and true phenomenon that's been going on for like the last, call it 35 or 40 years of the Valley's evolution. So Tesla's kind of interesting because if you think about it, we know where engineering headquarters are. They're basically right next to Stanford University, within, let's say, 10 football fields. And if you want to particularly know where they are, they don't get too far from what's called the engineering quad at Stanford. So it's about a mile and a half trip to get there. But most of the grad students that work at Tesla and work on their PhDs, et cetera, sort of transition over after they graduate. So I belabor this point of sort of beautiful buildings because, as you know, Elon's compensation is all in stock. He gets $1 a year. The other thing that happens is that, if he needs to, he'll sleep in the factory. But we also have this thing where after seeing the initial, this place looks like a dump in terms of its parking space, I then had a chance 1 year later to see the new engineering facility, and it was sitting there on, like a 5-acre piece of land, 4 stories, all kinds of beauty in terms of execution, but no headquarters. Engineering headquarters, yes, but the uh, the engineering team was really dominating this building near Stanford, and most of the executives running Tesla are sitting in offices attached to the main factory. So Elon has this thing going where, yeah, he'll put up buildings, but most of it's focused on optimizing engineering or optimizing the customer spaces that people visit. So the journal did this article and they were like, hey, Tesla has a horrible parking problem. Therefore, we don't think their stock is ever going to do anything because those guys can't figure out parking. How can they figure out a complex business like automobiles? Obviously, you've seen how this has gone over the last 2.5, 3 years. Tesla has done quite well. And that brought up the question of, now, wait a second, why is it that this parking is such a problem and therefore Tesla's open to this attack? And the answer is that it turns out that when you're growing really fast, you may have to focus on quality of execution of the business and delay on the accoutrements, the beautifulness of parking, for example, until you have time to deal with that. But in the meantime, if you're growing rapidly, that's why you need all these extra people that suck up space that you kind of didn't expect that to occur. So I'm somewhat belaboring the point, but the Wall Street Journal had a valid point that, hey, the parking looks crazy, so therefore it might be, the signs of that might be a reason why the business is not working very well. The reality was, though, that the business is working way better than everybody expected for a long time, and that growth limits the ability to stay on top of things like how's the parking doing for employees. The solution that they have that's a lot better at the current, I want to call it quasi headquarters, is attached to the manufacturing facility. I believe the number is 15 to 20,000 people work there, particularly on the floor to produce cars and EVs. But they also have a close access to a train link, and they have shuttles that move people back and forth from parking areas into where they'll be doing production. So there are methods that are being used, but they continue to grow. Hence, one could make the argument that, hey, they look kind of disorganized because of how this whole parking thing is working out. So let me switch now to talking about the Semi, which is sort of the focus of this show today. One of the things that we learned about this past week was that there was actually a Wall Street Journal article just as the Semi came out. And one of the comments that was shared was that, Tesla really wasn't serious about the Semi. And there's some guys in a garage that decided to slap something together and therefore produce a Semi. Well, once the vehicle arrived, you obviously saw that this was not a let's slap something together situation. Once the Semi arrived, I'm just amazed at the long list of potential competitors that were showing up to be ready to attack Tesla in the Semi market of the electric world, which I guess they may still exist, some of these startups that were described, but think of the polish of the vehicle, 0.32 on drag, the location of seating in the middle rather than left or right. Just a long list of sort of innovative ideas that demonstrate that this wasn't a, in 6 months they slapped something together situation. This thing had been planned over years to deliver a quality solution. Now, one of the things that's new here that I wanted to share that I learned this week is that Tesla operates under a theory called first principles of physics. And so I wanted to articulate the fact in this case, helicopter interruption here, the concept I want to articulate here is that Tesla, well, there's a guy named J.B. Strobel. J.B. sort of left the board, joined a battery startup put together by Bill Gates about a mile from Tesla's main production facilities. That entity is either bankrupt or near bankrupt right now. So he actually has returned to the board of Tesla while running Redwood Materials, a battery recycling company that's based near Tesla's factory in Reno. So if you're looking around for potential things to consider investing in, I believe Redwood Materials is now public. And J.B. Strobel's a brilliant guy, Stanford alum. Just he ran all the CTO. And he's the one that actually sort of built from batteries the first Tesla and sort of invited Elon into the company. So I'd encourage you to read more about him. I'd encourage you to consider investing in Redwood Materials if you like how he delivers on behalf of Tesla initially and then now these other projects that he's working on. So so this show is really targeting the fact that what J.B. Strobel actually did was he told Elon and other senior members of the company that, hey, we have a problem here. We're focused on an electric company, and as we move materials around and complete and deliver our trucks or our cars in the electric space, it makes no sense to be moving towards fully electric everything. And we're sitting here building cars and moving them around on diesel trucks, for example, parts and cars. So there's been a push over the last, let's say, 6-8 months to start a very intense transition process from Tesla moving parts and cars around via diesel trucks onto newly built Tesla semis. And that process is actually consuming trucks that might otherwise go to customers. I have to say that, sidebar note here, I'm blown away by the number of world-class companies with really good lawyers who've put a lot of money down anticipatory of buying their Tesla semi-trucks. And they've already been delayed multiple years, but now with the new factory not being completed until the end of next year, I'm just stunned by their willingness to be patient. I think obviously part of this is that what's actually happening is they've hired a number of consulting firms combined with internal operating individuals to help assess the viability of the semi for their operations, as well as be able to monitor how those solutions are being used currently so they know that the trucks actually work. Now, I'm sort of blown away, fascinated, amazed by the fact that Daimler-Benz has a plan where they, being sort of the largest market share truck manufacturer in the globe, really has gone after Tesla hard. In particular, they did this thing where within 3 months of seeing the initial semi 4 years ago, they actually built a number of Class 7 trucks, like a smaller size truck, and Class 8 trucks. And then they created partnerships with all of their current large holders of trucks to at least start testing the initial vehicles that they've produced rather quickly with an eye towards preserving or establishing that relationship. And once they had viable sort of trucking options for their customers, they could easily transition them rather than having those folks transition out to Tesla's solution. The biggest sort of example of what I found fascinating by Daimler was that up until about, I'd say, 20 weeks ago, in the trade press, particularly if you read any of the truck stuff, there are all these little ads showing the Class 8 semi, the e-Cascadia from Daimler, and then it would list the fact that they have 1 million miles of actually customer miles for their trucks, which in Tesla's case, until we had these trucks handed over to Pepsi, you could argue that Tesla had 0 customer miles, because all those miles are being driven for sort of internal consumption at Tesla. So I was fascinated because after Tesla handed over the trucks to Pepsi, those trucks are going anywhere between 1 and 500 miles a day times 39 trucks. They're not doing 1,000,000 miles a week, but it's possible they could do that. And we kind of no longer have these Daimler ads being shown. The other thing I was really surprised by is Daimler gave away free trucks to get the ball rolling with their customer base. But I've just been stunned at the dearth of non sort of Daimler advertising attached to their trucks that people are seeing as they move around on delivery routes. I guess the one place that I most am focused on is in Canada. There's actually a company called Loblaws, which is a large grocery chain there, or the largest, I think, in Canada. And they have a deal for, I guess, 5 Tesla trucks as a start, but they tried to roll with BYD, and the 100 miles of range in bone-chilling Canada in most places basically didn't work. So they shut down that BYD relationship and replaced them with a relationship with Daimler because they already have a fleet of Daimler trucks that they use for moving product from warehouses to stores. So I'm in that, like, you ever have a sense there's a concept called vaporware? And it's amazing to have Daimler trucks already have 1,000,000 miles worth of customer used miles, starting, let's say, a year ago. But number one, we ain't seeing none of them trucks. And number two, obviously, if we aren't seeing the trucks, we aren't seeing any performance numbers on the trucks either, because they're not as sophisticated in both battery, et cetera, as Tesla is, and therefore they're sort of fighting to keep their customers from migrating away. They've had a lot of years to try and catch up. Obviously, it has not worked out. So what I wanted to focus on today is, guess what? This truck is very serious, number one. Number two, it wasn't a bunch of guys sitting in a garage that slapped something together. It's a real deal solution from a whole bunch of different angles. The only problem that I see happening for both the Semi as well as that $25,000 car is the logic stream for, I think, electric vehicles is slightly off. What I mean by that? Well, if you think about it, what Elon pointed out was that the goal was after a certain number of years, i.e., 5 to 7 years, Tesla will be vertically integrated all the way back to the mines so that it has enough materials to build batteries from there. So I just wanted to point out here that the challenge, though, that's going on is that they're mine vertically integrated, but the price of lithium has quadrupled. So the issue with a cheaper vehicle isn't that they're not trying, it's that the number of folks entering the EV space demands more lithium ion material, and there ain't enough material out there. So I kind of wanted to point this out to you because, yeah, the 25K car will happen, but if, the battery core materials hadn't quadrupled in value, we'd have it now. I think it'll happen, but I don't think the delay is sort of a self-inflicted wound. So overall, just wanted to do a show today about the Semi and the fact that it wasn't just a happenstance that they put this vehicle together and put a lot of great engineers after making sure it's excellent. And as it arrives to market, I think all customers will be impressed and find everything that's being done top notch, and therefore will burnish Tesla's image. The mystery that I want to leave you with is, as I've shared in earlier shows, a 75 battery in a Model S, or, 75 kWh battery in a Model S nets out at a, 50 to 60K car. If one truck takes, call it 1,000 kilowatt hour battery, how can you sell that thing for 250K when you can get like 10 cars out of that or whatever, 9 cars out of the same battery count? So we'll see how all this works out, but costs and where the markets are going are definitely affecting how fast this thing gets delivered. At any rate, want to thank you for joining us today for this segment of the show. I wanted to just mention to you downward facing dog in the yoga space as a way to improve, stretching, etc. I think one yoga class a week, etc., would be a big enhancement, and wanted to encourage you to consider either a virtual one or a real class, because I think it'll make a lot of difference. Anyway, once again, thanks for joining us. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Tschüss, au revoir, le hit road, Khoda Hafiz, ni hao ma, konbanwa, namaste. And in Jamaica, we say, enough respect, walk good man. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day, and bye for now.